I still have not read it yet. Yeah. When I want to feel sad, I just pick this book up. It was so good. That's probably my favorite fantasy that I've read. Gruesome that they would be there for her for anything and everything. You see what I'm putting down? But it's not a romance. Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for this video. One of my good friends on booktube, Kayla's Bookish Vibes, tagged me in a video. I'm gonna attempt to try it. This is an Are We Compatible tag. Basically, I'm gonna tell you guys all of the books that I love, and you let me know in the comments if we have anything in common. It is Sunday, which means that this video is supposed to be out today, but I was that nervous about the video that I kept putting it off. So now I'm having to film this, edit, and post it today. I tried to organize it as best as I could. It's just if I got on here and talked about all the books that I love, we would be here for days. And honestly, not even talking about the premise of the book and the synopsis, but more so my feelings towards the book, because I don't remember nothing. I don't remember what I'm reading now. That's an exaggeration because I do, but y'all get what I'm saying. We are gonna start with children's. I only have 2 books, Amari and the Night Brothers. I love this. It is a fantasy. It's middle grade, but it's in the children's section. This is kind of like a Men in Black but children's edition, and I absolutely love this book. I don't know if it's supposed to be a trilogy or it's going to be more books, but there is a 3rd book that's coming out. I don't know if it's the last. This is the 2nd book, Amari and the Great Game. I still have not read it yet. Yeah, I need to get on it. It's because I haven't picked it out of my book jar yet, and I don't just want to pick it up and read it, but I'm hoping that I pick it soon. The second one is From the Desk of Zoe Washington. I just finished reading it last Thursday. This is about Zoe, and on Zoe's 12th birthday, she gets a letter from her bio dad that's in prison. And she's, trying to get to know him. It's a short book. She's trying to get to know him, and she's trying to find out whether or not he's innocent. It's really a sad book. There were multiple times where I was kind of tearing up a little bit. Young adult. We're going to start off with a romance that I just recently finished. It's called With or Without You. This is kind of like a reality TV setting. We have 2 teens, girl, boy, that run their family's food truck. And in public, they don't like each other. There's a feud going on. However, no one knows besides them that it's fake. They haven't fought with each other in years. There is someone who gets a hold of this story and wants to make a reality show out of it. And they're actually dating in real life. So that show is going to affect them. The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. It's about a queer Mexican-American girl navigating Catholic school while falling in love and learning to celebrate her true self. I read this, I want to say 2 years ago, in 2022. Instructions for Dancing. This was the first book that I ever got from someone, and it was so far the only giveaway that I won. This is the paperback version. They have a new cover. I normally don't buy different covers of books, but I love the new covers so much. This is about Evie, and Evie has some kind of power where she can see the beginning and the end of a relationship. That kind of, puts a damper on things because now she doesn't want to be in a relationship, but she ends up meeting him. You can't see him. This has some kind of like magical realism to it. When I want to feel sad, I just pick this book up. That's all I'm gonna say. We have a dystopian. I'm not really a dystopian girly, but we have Sanctuary, and this is a near future dystopian where a young girl and her brother must escape a xenophobic government to find sanctuary somewhere in California, which is where she was. And then her mom, her and her brother go to Vermont. Something happens, they make their way to New York, and then they have to make their way back to California. It is such a sad book. I think it was my only 5-star, maybe in April when I read it. Next we have a ton of fantasy / paranormal. I'm not really a fantasy girl. However, I don't know why, but there are a ton of fantasy books that I've read that have been 5 stars, 4.75s. Like, I have rated them super high. I'm wondering if it's because I can't really say that I'm not really a fantasy reader anymore because I read it so much, but it's still so new to me compared to romance. So maybe that's why. I'm not judging it super harshly. Cemetery Boys, which is by Aiden Thomas, I want to say. This is paranormal. A trans boy determined to prove his gender to his traditional Latinx family summons a ghost who refuses to leave. I think I read another book by Aiden Thomas, but I don't remember which one. Aiden also has a fantasy one. This one's kind of paranormal, but he has like a fantasy, I think it's called like something, the Sunbearer Trials or something, that I want to read. It's on KU, but I know my library has a physical copy, so I just need to figure out which one I want to read. Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton. The second book I want to say comes out in 2 months, August-ish. This is a dark, seductive YA fantasy debut. A siren assassin falls for a forbidden man. That forbidden man, I don't know why it's not said in here, but he's a prince. It was so good. That's probably my favorite fantasy that I've read. This Poison Heart is a duet, and I think the duet is called This Poison Heart, but the first book is called This Poison Heart. Contemporary fantasy about a girl with a unique and deadly power. She ends up finding out that a family member of hers left her this mansion that she moves into, and she ends up finding this forbidden garden that has all kinds of plants that are very deadly to people. However, it doesn't really do anything to her. I definitely preferred the first book, This Poison Heart, over the second one. So Let Them Burn is a Jamaican inspired fantasy. This follows a God's blessed heroine who's forced to choose between saving her sister or protecting her homeland. And to this day, I still remember the cliffhanger at the end, and I'm patiently waiting for the second book to come out. I don't remember if it comes out at the end of this year or sometime next year. Blood Debts. Oh, I forgot to get the other one. Hold on. So in this book, 30 years ago, a gruesome unaliving happened, and 30 years, you know, in the present, it's the anniversary, and they find out, well, yeah, it's the anniversary of what happened then, but I think it's also the anniversary of like the death of their dad or something. And they're two twins. Their mom had been sick for a while, and that day they end up finding out that the mom wasn't necessarily sick, she was cursed. Blood Debts. They're trying to figure out how it happened, because once they figured out what happened, they were able to like reverse it and stuff. So it's just kind of figuring out who cursed her and why. The second book did also come out. I got this one. This one was a one that I bought, so I was able to tab, but I went ahead and just got this one from the library because I feel like sequels can go one or two ways, and I just didn't want to buy it. Then we have thriller and mystery. My all-time favorite is a speculative thriller. It's called Gorgeous Gruesome Faces. This is a sapphic thriller that follows a disgraced teen idol who comes face to face with the demons of her past in a glittering cutthroat K-pop competition. When I started it, I don't remember if I finished it the exact same day, but I read it very quickly. It was so engaging. Another one of mine is Out of Body. This is kind of like a Freaky Friday meets Get Out. Freaky Friday because of the body switching, body hopping, whatever you want to call it. I ended up giving this like a 4.75 or something. The only thing that I will say is that when the conflict was taking place, there was a lot of things going on, and it was just going super quickly. And if you were skimming or not really paying attention, you need to go back and reread. I won't go into detail about these two, but I do want to mention them. Their Vicious Games and Ace of Spades. I think this one, I've definitely been seeing more love for it. I think when it first came out, I was definitely seeing mixed reviews, but more specifically from Black readers, it's normally either a 5-star or like a 1. Like they just didn't like it. For me, I fall on the scale of the 5. I love this book. This one as well, there is a second book. I don't know if this one has another book, but this one does have a second book coming online. The author has another book coming out. And one more that I really liked was Thieves Gambit. The paperback just released recently. There is a second book coming out again at some point, maybe the end of this year. I definitely preferred the audiobook. A girl who grew up in a family where they, steal. Something ends up happening to her mom, and she ends up also getting invited to compete in this competition. The prize at the end is to have whatever you want. The wish for her is to save her mom. I definitely preferred the audiobook because it's so action-packed. Next we have adult. So we're going to start off with romance. We have The Oath. The girl in there, her husband ends up dying from cancer. And on his deathbed, he ended up making his friends promise that they would be there for her for anything and everything. You see what I'm putting down? Yeah. So this one is a Why Choose. There's going to be a second book, but I think different people. Wild Pitch is another super spicy one. Sierra ends up playing on the same baseball team as an idol of hers named Mateo, and I think the way that they meet just doesn't really go perfectly, and it kind of turns into like an enemies to lovers type thing, but kind of forbidden as well. But not like, I say enemies to lovers just because I don't want to say rivals, but it kind of like a dislike. They dislike each other. It just doesn't go well. A Proposal They Can't Refuse is a rom-com about a Puerto Rican chef and Irish-American whiskey distiller forced into a fake engagement by their scheming octogenarian grandfathers. That means they're in their 80s, right? I don't know. It was such a good book. I regret not buying it and reading it because I would have tabbed it a bunch, and I don't reread books. Demon's Dream is an urban romance, I think. I honestly don't remember much about it besides it being 700 pages. And although it's two people on the cover, Demon, which I think his name is Damon, and Dream, it also focuses on her friend and his friend. I don't remember if they were friends. I think they were friends, or maybe her friend and his brother, something like that. But there was a lot going on for 700 pages, and the fact that I was able to read it, and a lot of my mutuals loved that book as well. Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding. Honestly, I am a sucker for reality TV books. It's also sapphic, so the two women have to plan a fake wedding even though they're not even together. I have Fast on here. It is a romance, but this one focuses on, I think, different time periods in this girl's life. She was assaulted as a kid. It kind of follows her like growing up and stuff and how that affected her, but along the way she ends up getting with a guy that she met as a kid as well. So it is a romance, but there's more to it than just a romance. Super sad. It's on KU, I believe. 3 books that I'm not really gonna get into, but I do want to mention them. I really enjoyed Razorblade Tears. This one is a thriller by S.A. Cosby. When the Reckoning Comes is a horror. I don't know if it would be for everyone because it's not like a horror, like a jump scare kind of horror. It's a sad kind of horror. To Have and to Heist. It's a rom-com, but it's not really. The author promotes it as a rom-com, but it's not a romance. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not. It has a romance, but it's like 2%. There is a second book coming out. I think that one's going to be more of a romance than the first. It's the same people. It's following the same ones. That first book, To Have and to Heist, is just not a rom-com. It's a comedy to me. 2 fantasies. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I read physically and listened to the audiobook. The main trope in there is found family. We have a girl who is a witch, and she ends up being hired to teach 3 girl witches, or 4, I think it's 3 kid girl witches. She's there to teach them about magic and stuff, but at the same time, she's also, our main character is getting closer to everyone. They're actually not even all supposed to be together because witches aren't supposed to be together because of the amount of magic that's there. but it's just such a good book. There is a second book coming out as well, I think September, November. And then The Grim Reaper's Lawyer. This is paranormal. There's another book coming out. Y'all, she's been saying there's another book coming out now, I think for 2 years. I think for 2 years. I remember how the first one ended. And one of the main things about this one is that I almost didn't want it to be a romance because they really gave off strangers to best friend vibes. But once you get into the romance, it's really good. It's a girl who's a lawyer and she ends up being killed by the person that she's representing. She ends up dying and becoming the lawyer for the Grim Reaper that went and got her. It's a really good book. I have 2 more categories and then I'll be done. The next category are just my favorite authors. These are authors that I've read multiple books of. I'm meaning 3 or more books. I will read anything that they do. My most recent author on this list is Christina Forrest. I've read every book excluding anything that's coming out soon, because she does have a book coming out. But I read all of them except her debut maybe, or her second book. It's called I Want to Be Where You Are or something. My library is getting it because I put it on the little form or whatever. Hopefully I'll get to it soon. My favorite one of hers is Now That I Found You. This is about a girl who is, now this is the one that's kind of new adult, but she promotes it as young adult. We have a girl who has just graduated from high school. She is an up-and-coming actress, but she has a super famous grandmother who is an actress as well. Something happens and she's now a recluse, the grandma. Back in the present, our main girl, her name's Evie. Evie is the name of the girl from The Mummy, which is my favorite movie of all time. So that's why I remember. Evie is betrayed by a friend and she ends up going by her grandmother because she thinks if she's able to get her out of her home and she's seen with her, it'll fix her problem. Danielle Allen, I have a book right here, but I haven't read it yet. This is her first trad book. I'm gonna get to it pretty soon. My favorite of hers is Insta-Love. It's technically a standalone, but there is a follow-up, but it's a novella. This one is a reality TV show. CCJ, Christina C. Jones, I've read multiple books of hers. Honestly, my most read authors are between Danielle Allen and CCJ. I honestly don't know. It's been Danielle Allen for a while, but I have a feeling if I check, CCJ might have surpassed her. My favorite book of hers is Anonymous Acts. This is a romantic suspense. I think she does romantic suspense well. I enjoyed Anonymous Acts. Don't really ask me what it's about. Wait, let me see if I remember. We have a girl who is married. They aren't really like together and he ends up cheating on her or having an affair. And she's having one of her own, but it's anonymous. They don't know who they are. Her husband ends up being killed. So I do remember a lot. The detectives obviously think it's the wife, but they also find out that she's seeing someone on the side. So that's how they end up meeting. Tania Montford, one of my favorite authors. She has 3 books out right now, and my favorite one is her most recent, which is like from last year or 2 years ago by now. The Last Minute First Lady. This is a fake dating one. We have a man who he's running for office. I don't remember if it's like mayor maybe or governor. And we have a woman who is a reporter. And obviously with fake dating, it's beneficial for both people. They end up cahooting. Tiffany D. Jackson, my favorite of hers that I've read, because I've read 3 of hers, is Monday's Not Coming. This is, I don't want to say it's based on a true story, but it's kind of inspired by a true story. And this had one of the biggest plot twists of my life. For me, that's not a spoiler, saying a book has a plot twist. I think every book an author tries to do some kind of a twist. Some people do it well. Some people you don't even realize it's a twist because people guess it. But this, I didn't even see coming. And I think there's a video on my TikTok. It tore me up. Joya Goffney, this is her debut. And it was my first book of hers, but this is not my favorite. I don't have my favorite. This one's really good, but my favorite is Confessions of an Alleged Good Girl. It's YA. She's the daughter of a preacher. I just felt like I related so much, Not like literally like being the daughter of a preacher or whatever, not like that, but just her feelings and just her story. I just felt like she was very relatable. Kaylin Barron. It did not start off well with her. I was first introduced to her with Cinderella is Dead. I own that book as well. It was not a favorite of mine. However, my next book that I read was this one, You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, and this is my all-time favorite of hers. It's super short, but I don't want to say it packs a punch, but this is a horror, like a slasher horror, and I was definitely freaked out while I was reading it. There are kids at this camp that put on some kind of like fake, it's not really a haunted house because it's not a house, but it's basically like a simulation game, I guess, of being the final person. This one year, people are actually being killed. I also did read This Poison Heart. I think I mentioned that already, actually. This Poison Heart. I shouldn't have. I was supposed to mention it when I talked about this one, but Kimberly Brown, I have read multiple books, and my favorite would have to be her most recent. Well, I don't know if it's her most recent one anymore. I'm telling you, she publishes every month. But her most recent, I guess, as of like May maybe, or June. I think it's May because we're in June. It's called Rhythms Blues. We have a girl who is dating a rapper. Now this is someone who she went to school with, but it doesn't go too good, and she ends up breaking up with him and getting with the producer of his newest like album. But it's kind of forbidden because they actually didn't know that at first, so it's not like she got with him on purpose. It gets very messy. My last category are book series that some are completed and some aren't, because I've been talking for forever. I think I'm just gonna mention these. I don't know if I want to go too much into it, and then watch I'm saying that and I still attempt to. The Mafia Misfit series by Asia Monique. I don't know why I forgot her name. It's, I believe, gonna be 10 books. I think 6 are out right now. I could have sworn I just saw her post that she's putting one of her books on hold, like the newest one that's coming out. Next is the Ethics series, and I just realized, no, I don't own the Ethics series, but Moth to a Flame, it's a standalone, but you need to read it first. If you read this and you think that you don't want to be back into this world, you could just read this book, but it does continue into the Ethics series, and there's an entire world and there's a specific order. More specifically, the Ethics series is really good. I think it's 6 books. The 6th book is also like double the size of all the other books. It's like 400 pages. Did it need to be that long? No. Overall, it's a really good series. It's an urban fiction series. However, you got to get through this book first. And this book is very heartbreaking, but if I have to compare this to the first Ethic book, the first Ethic book has this one scene. I mean, it has multiple scenes where it's like, oh my gosh, but there's this one SA scene that's just, that's the one thing that I will say some people might dislike about her writing. I have mixed feelings about it, but she doesn't shy away from those gruesome and tragic scenes. Typically in books leading up to an SA scene or something, they might glaze over it, skip it, and you kind of infer what happened. She goes into full detail. So I don't remember if this book has a scene like that, but I do know the first Ethic book does. Lost and Found series by Natasha Bishop. I think there's 3 books. I don't know if there's gonna be more. My least favorite is the second. I don't like the tropes. I didn't like the man. It is a good book anyway, but I think because I already don't like the tropes that it had, I think it had like one night and surprise baby or something. It threw me off. But the first book, Where We Found Our Home, and the most recent one, and maybe the last one, Where We Found Our Passion, really good. Where We Found Our Home is first responders. Lincoln, I think his name is. He is a firefighter, and it's kind of like Safe Haven, where a woman has just escaped from like an abusive relationship and moves to a small town. She meets him. And then Where We Found Our Passion is a sports romance. The guy is the FMC is a soccer player, and he is like the one that fixes them. I forgot what you call it, but I forgot I had these books as well. They were gifted to me. Where We Found Our Home, Where We Found Our Heart, and Where We Found Our Passion. Was I Ever series by Naomi Loud. I believe it's, oh, is it 3 or 4 books? I don't remember. It's a dark romance series. The first book is kind of like a soulmates type of thing. I don't remember the second book, but my favorite is the third book. That one I believe is Bodyguard. A Poly Love Story by Tannen Tales. This is a BDSM, I think. I'm trying to think of how she promotes the book. But it's 3 books following the same people. It starts off as an FFM. It's a poly love story, so it starts off as an FFM. It turns into like a MMFF. Like there's another guy that's added. There's another book. This is the 4th book, but it's like a spin-off. It's not the same people, it's different people. The Kingstown series by Sean. This is the collection of 5 books. Do not ask me what each book was because I surely do not remember, but I remember I ate them up. I really enjoyed these. I know a lot of people didn't really like, I think the 3rd book or the second one is called Midnight. Midnight specifically is an interracial romance, and they didn't like that the white guy's nickname is Midnight. His name isn't Midnight, it's something else. I don't remember, but that's his nickname. It's explained in the book why it's Midnight. Some people didn't like that. And then my last series is the Bucket List series. It's 4 books, but 3 different authors. Kima B, Honesty Price, and Jay Cherry. Make Me Beg is the 1st book. Satisfy Me is by Jay Cherry. That's the 2nd book. If You Let Me by Kima B is the 3rd. And then Group Project by Honesty Price as well is a continuation of that 1st book. But the other 2, those are 2 different stories. Like they have nothing to do with each other, just that 1st and that last book. My favorite is the one by Kima B, If You Let Me, which is strange because it's Friends to Lovers. I'm not a fan of Friends to Lovers. I think it's Friends to Lovers. They each have something to do with like a bucket list. That's why the series is called that. Those are all of the books that I really love. But let me know down in the comments if we have anything in common. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, and I have all of this to edit and hopefully get it out tonight. Let's pray for me. Let's wish me luck, and I'll see you next week. Bye.